This lesson, we're going to be setting up a magic 8-ball. And if those of you that are unfamiliar with a magic 8-ball, basically it helps you make a decision. You ask it a question, it provides you what you should do with that question. And we're going to be first in this lesson setting up our magic 8-ball. So having a div with a class of message where we can output our contents back out to the person interacting with the variables. So we could output a message out to the player that's interacting with our application. Next, we need an input area. So this can be a regular type text input. And this is where the person can ask the question. We can also have placeholder there. So this is just regular HTML. Ask your question. Or we could add that into the message as well. Ask your question. So it's up to you, however you want to present it to the user. So we've got ask your question. And then lastly, let's create a button. So this button is going to be a type button. And we'll set up a value. We'll just add in some HTML inner text in here. Save that. And it looks like we've got too many ask your question. So I'm going to just shorten this to question, ask your question, and this can just be ask. So we don't have too much repetition. So ask your question, question, ask. Next, let's set up our JavaScript using our variables. We're going to set up an object that contains the element information, document, query selector, in order to select elements that are available within the HTML. We're going to select the element, the first element of the page that has a class of message, place it into our object with the same name, message. Also, we need to get values, so we can set up our value for our question using document, query selector. We're going to select the element with the tag input. So the first one that has the tag input. And then lastly, let's do one last one. So this is for the button, because we're going to have to create some interaction for the button. So using query selector once again, selecting the first element button on the page, save that, refresh it, and let's just make sure that everything is working. So we've got our message element. You can see that that corresponds with that text up there. We've got our question variable. So that corresponds with that input element. And then we've got our button object that corresponds with the button within the HTML. So we're ready to move on to the next part of this challenge, and that's going to be where we create the interaction with the button and get the information that's provided within the question and then generate a random response to that question. So all of that is still yet to come. Go ahead and set up your HTML structure, connect your JavaScript objects to that HTML so you're ready to move on to the next step.